start recording. And fantastic. Well, welcome everybody to today's program. We're so excited that Erin Peruzzini is here for our Lunch and Learn program. And so just thank you everybody for joining us. This program is part of the Lake Friendly Living Awareness Month, hosted by the Lake Friendly Living Coalition of the Finger Lakes. Last year, we held this event virtually just for 1 week. And this year, as the coalition began planning, we realized there were so many topics we wanted to cover, and we were able to hold some events in person. We decided to make this a Lake Friendly Living Awareness Month. I know some of you signed up for today, have also signed up for other programs. We do have additional programming taking place throughout the month of May, so we definitely hope that you will take a look at what there is to offer. This month-long series of webinars and in-person events highlights components from all of our Lake Friendly Living programs and allows us to work collectively to protect water quality throughout the Finger Lakes. And there we go. I just wanted to briefly show you this map, which is very exciting for all of us and highlights the breadth really of this coalition. I would expect that the lake that you are representing is here. You can see the medallions of lakes stretching all the way west to Canisius and east to Owasco, Tisco, and Skinny Atlas. So we are reaching a wide range of constituents, both homeowners, businesses, and elected official offices to spread the word about lake friendly living. Just briefly, if you're interested in learning more about the Lake Friendly Living program overall, you can visit our website at cayugalake.org. The program is very simple, easy, and free. And there are three main components to the Lake Friendly Living program. One is minimizing runoff. The next is eliminating pollutants. And then the third is capturing and infiltrating water. So definitely check out cayugalake.org or your lake association's Lake Friendly Living page to learn more and to sign up. Just wanted to highlight the next program that the network is hosting is on Tuesday, May 24th. This is Dr. Grayson Chmandel, who is the new director at the Community Science Institute. The CSI is a strong partner of the Cayuga Lake Watershed Network, and we work with them to sponsor the summer harmful algal bloom monitoring program. I know CSI is still looking for volunteers. So if you are in the Cayuga Lake watershed and are interested in doing some HABs monitoring this summer, definitely get in touch with either the network or CSI. I will put some contact information in the chat. And Grayson is going to be discussing the history of the Community Science Institute, as well as the impact that community science can have on water quality in the Finger Lakes. Again, this is just a little blurb, a little plug for the HABs Harrier program. Training happens in July and monitoring begins. I'm sorry, training is in June and monitoring begins in July and runs through early fall. So finally, without further ado, I'm really pleased to introduce Erin, who is a strong partner of the networks in many of the projects that we're doing, especially Lake Friendly Living. And I wanted to just take a moment to tell you a little bit about Erin. She's been with the Seneca County Soil and Water Conservation District for 23 years. Congratulations, Erin. While in college at SUNY ESF in Syracuse, she interned with the Seneca Lake Area Partners in 5 counties, SLAP-5, now the SWIO, to conduct a road ditch evaluation survey. After graduating, she supervised a lakefront property owner home assist survey in the Seneca Lake watershed. Erin also worked for Seneca Lake Pure Waters Association for a brief time until starting at Seneca County Soil and Water Conservation District in 1999. Erin started at Seneca County Soil and Water as a technician and oversaw the non-ag operations at the district. She assisted landowners with permits along the lakeshore and worked with the town and county highway departments to implement best management practices. Erin is now the district manager at Seneca County Soil and Water Conservation District and works with her staff to serve the residents of Seneca County and protect its natural resources. Erin resides in Seneca Falls with her husband, Mark, and 2 children, Noah and Kara. She enjoys walking her dog, hiking, camping, kayaking, mountain biking, and boating on the Finger Lakes. Erin, you are a busy lady. Thank you so much for being here today. Folks, just as a reminder, if you do have questions, feel free to put them in the Q&A section or the chat. And I am happy to turn the program over to Erin. Thanks so much.
Great, thanks, Jen. Let's see if I can get this started here. Okay, can everybody see that? No, of course I think I picked the wrong one. I'm sorry. Let's try that. There we go. Okay, so thanks, Jen, for the introduction. I just wanted to give you a little bit of an overview of what soil and water districts, how they were formed, how we're structured, and what types of programs and projects we implement. Well, I'm focusing on Seneca County today. Keep in mind that each county in New York State actually has a soil and water conservation district and is implementing very similar programs and projects. So just going back to how the soil and water conservation districts were formed. I'm sure you've all heard of the Dust Bowl that happened in the 1930s. In response to that, FDR had signed a Soil Water Conservation Act into law in 1935, which established the Soil Conservation Service, which is now the Natural Resource Conservation Service, overseen through the USDA program. In 1937, Congress passed a resolution, which was also signed by the president, asking states to become the conduit for soil and water conservation. And then in 1940, New York State adopted district law identifying the need for more local involvement, and county soil and water conservation districts began to form throughout New York State. In December in 1940, Seneca County Board of Supervisors actually formed and created the Seneca County Soil and Water Conservation District, creating the 8th Soil and Water District in New York State. So how are we kind of formed? So the residents elect the governor. The governor oversees the New York State Ag and Markets Department. And Ag and Markets has a New York State Soil and Water Conservation Committee made up of these voting members and advisory members and a staff. There's actually a Soil and Water Conservation District staff that then oversee the soil and water districts in each county. The residents also elect their county legislatures or Board of Supervisors, and those Board of Supervisors then appoint the voting members for each soil and water district board. We also have New York State Association of Conservation Districts that provides advocacy and representation on the state and national levels for the Soil and Water Conservation District. And there's an employees association that provides training, professional standards, and development for all of our soil and water district employees. So our soil and water district is made up of a 5-member board of directors. Some soil and water districts have 7 members. Ours being 5, we have 2 county supervisors, a Grange member, a Farm Bureau member, and a member at large, which represents urban or suburban, essentially a non-farm member. So our office is we're a small staff. There's only 4 of us here, which is pretty standard for most soil and water conservation districts. Some of them have up to 30 employees or more. Those generally are like in the districts that are in the New York City watershed. And then there's some soil and water districts that have 1 employee. I'm not sure how they manage that, but kudos to them. So we're made up, myself, the manager. We have 2 technicians, one that basically handles all of the ag work and the one that handles the non-ag, working with municipalities and landowners. And then we have a bookkeeper secretary. We're housed here on 5 and 20 right in Seneca Falls. We have office hours 8 to 4:30. Anyone is welcome to come in anytime if they need assistance. And we
Erin?
also have, yes.
Sorry, this is Jen. Sorry. I just want to let you know, we're seeing your notes.
Oh,
You want to switch a view?
yes, thank you for that.
Sorry to interrupt you.
That's okay. Nope. Yeah, I must have picked the wrong one. I don't know why that's, let's try this one. Is that better?
Yes.
No notes?
Looks good.
Okay, thank you. Sorry. So we also have a maintenance facility that holds our weed harvester, our hydro seeding, and other equipment that we own. Our mission is to bring people, government agencies, and private interests together to manage Seneca County's natural resources and environmental problems. And our primary purpose is to improve and protect the land, water, and related resources of Seneca County. Soil and water districts are action agencies, and we have the power to plan as well as implement on both public and private lands. How are soil and water districts funded? This is, it's titled Seneca County, but for the most part, all soil and water districts are funded the same way. We have two primary funding sources, New York State and county appropriations. New York State offers funding through the New York State Ag and Markets Department through three different options or three different sources. One, on a non-competitive level, we receive funding through performance-based measures. So if we provide so many programs or do so many meetings or those kind of things, performance-based, we will receive funding from the state to support our staff and our operations. Then we receive money through the New York State Ag and Environmental Management Program. That is also non-competitive, and it supports staff time, and then there's some implementation money in there as well. As well as New York State Ag and Markets offers competitive grant funds through the Ag Non-Point Source, climate resiliency farming, and ecosystem-based management funding options. We also receive funding through New York State Department of Environmental Conservation through competitive grants like the Water Quality Incentive Program and Department of State grants. And then because we fall within the Lake Ontario watershed, we are actually a member of a 25 county membership through the FLOPA membership, which is the Finger Lakes Lake Ontario Watershed Protection Alliance, and we receive funding from them as well for implementation. And that money for us typically goes towards aquatic invasives, best management practices, and education. And then each county receives appropriations from their county Board of Supervisors, which goes towards just general operations and staff support and salaries. We also have a few other funding streams through federal grants and watershed groups. And then each soil and water district has a partnership with the Natural Resource Conservation Service. And we're a little bit unique. We're one of few in the state that is actually housed with the Natural Resource Conservation Service. So we're actually in a USDA facility, and they provide all sorts of, not only do they provide the space, but just associated operating costs. And then all of that funding ends up going into funneling through Soil and Water District to provide technical support to the county residents, funding for best management practices and implementation, and then education to Seneca County residents. This is just kind of a pie chart that shows how our funding, where our funding kind of comes from and where it goes to. So less than 18% of our funding goes towards our general operating expenses. So those are the yellows, oranges, and reds. And then over 80% of the funding that we receive goes towards implementation on the ground. Those are the blues and greens. So 72% of those implementation costs are all ag related. So we have three, this is kind of an oversimplification, but we have three primary program areas: ag, non-ag, and education. And all soil and water programs are dictated by the county need. So the needs of northern New York counties are probably going to be more heavily forested related, where central Finger Lakes and western New York might be a little more ag focused. So these are just some programs, quick overview of what the Soil and Water District offers taxpayers. If you own land in agricultural land, it may be eligible for an ag exemption. And part of being eligible for that is that a soil group worksheet needs to be obtained through the Soil and Water Conservation District. So we will work with landowners to map that land out. That goes to the assessor, and then the landowner gets the tax exemption. We also provide various maps and GIS data to landowners. We provide technical assistance for stormwater management. So with all the recent high frequency storm events that we've been receiving, this is pretty popular for us. These are things we provide on a day-to-day basis. So if you have a drainage issue, are experiencing flooding or stormwater issues, or have an erosion issue, Soil and Water will come out and meet with you and provide recommendations on how to deal with that. So we also offer guidance with ponds and dry hydrants for rural fire protection. So we'll come out, we'll do pond siting, we can offer design or maintenance recommendations. And then fire departments who don't have water readily disposable at their disposal in the event of a fire, they install these dry hydrants in lakes and streams to be able to give access to water in rural areas. So we'll assist them with that design. Seneca County is also a little bit unique with our poorly drained clay soils. We have quite a few drainage issues. So in the 1940s, when the Soil and Water District was formed, our Soil and Water District, again, based on local need, decided that we needed, they developed a county drainage project program. So we currently have over 30 miles of drainage projects in the county that we hold easements to and we're required to mow and maintain. And these drainage projects provide drainage not only to ag land, but to the county, town and county highway departments. We also, because we are wedged between the two largest Finger Lakes, we offer permit assistance for bulkheads, docks, shore wells, streams, and wetlands. And as part of that process, we will mark mean high water level, which is where DEC and U.S. Army Corps of Engineers have jurisdiction to. So we'll help homeowners through that permit process if they want it, if they need to do some lakeshore protection. Again, because we have so much lakefront, we run an aquatic weed harvesting program. We typically operate in the northern end of Cayuga Lake, on the Cayuga Seneca Canal, and in the Seneca Lake State Park Marina area. And we typically will remove about 800 to 1,000 tons of aquatic vegetation annually. We also coordinate with the Finger Lakes Prism for a water chestnut pole in the northern end of Cayuga Lake. And we started out, I believe, 8 or 9 years ago. We collected over, I think it was over a ton, I believe, that we collected. And this past year, we only collected, I think it was 8 pounds. So we're really by going back every year and collecting it, we're really keeping it at bay. Most soil and water districts also offer a tree and shrub program. The order forms go out early January and they're handed out typically late April. And we also offer a few other, we sell some conservation related items. Whoops, sorry. As far as public education, we offer various events for kids. We offer classroom education events. There's a 6th grade conservation field days, an Envirothon, which is a high school environmental competition. There's generally a regional competition, and then the winner from each county goes on to the state competition that's being held in Geneva next week. And then that winner goes on to a national competition. We also offer adult education like soil health programs, rain barrel workshops, and things like we're doing today. We also have booths at Empire Farm Days, the State Fair, and we generally offer an annual ag tour every year, partnered with Cornell Cooperative Extension. So, as mentioned, we have 2 primary funding categories to implement best management practices, ag and non-ag. The ag-related funding comes through ag and markets. I mentioned the ag non-point source program. That is running on its 28th year. It generally it funds water quality related best management practices. And it is very popular and is overfunded. So they actually they're not able to fund all of the projects they get applications for. There's a climate resiliency farming program, which is running on its 6th year. Seneca County has been very successful in getting grants through the climate resilient farming grant. And they offer 3 different tracks: flooding and erosion, manure cover and flares, and cover crops. We've been successful in the flooding and erosion component. And then they also offer an ecosystem-based management grant running on its 3rd year for smaller best management practices, either for erosion control or irrigation. I also mentioned the FLOPA program. So we also received some money from them for ag implementation. So there are eligibility requirements for all of these funding sources. You have to participate in the ag environmental management program. You also have to contribute a cost share component, which is typically a 75 or 25%, 75-25 cost share. And then because there is, as part of the ag environmental management program, there's a planning phase. So you have to, which takes a while. So you have to have some time and patience as well. And I just want to mention too, all of our best management practices that are implemented are either signed off by or designed by a New York State licensed engineer. To just go into the ag environmental management program just a little bit. The primary goal of AIM is to protect and enhance the environment while maintaining the viability of ag in New York. It's a statewide program. It's locally led and implemented. It is voluntary, but incentive-based. So if you want the funding, you need to participate in the ag program. I'm sorry, the AIM program. So the AIM program is really just a series of tiers of questions and worksheets that then move into a planning phase and then implementation and evaluation. So the first one is just you get to meet the farmer, you learn about what type of operation they're running. Then as you develop that relationship, you go through a series of worksheets that help identify any concerns or priorities that the farm might be having. The Soil and Water District then develops a plan. After that plan is developed, there's obviously been a need that's been identified. We pursue grant funding for that. And then if grant funding is received, we move into the implementation phase. And then after implemented, we don't just walk away from that. We always come back and work with that farmer to make sure that they're operating the practice properly and things are going smoothly. So into a little more of the glamorous stuff, the pictures and of the projects that we're working on. So some of the ag projects that we handle in relationship to nutrient management are manure compost facilities. So manure compost, excuse me, manure compost facilities are typically implemented on smaller beef operations that are non-CAFO related, non-CAFO regulated farms with smaller animal units. So smaller mid-sized farms. As you can see from these pictures, all of the before pictures, this is where they're storing and stockpiling their manure. It's either kind of out in the field or back behind the barn. And that creates a problem because it's leaching into the groundwater or catching surface water and adding nutrients to our lakes and rivers. So the compost facility allows the stockpiling and storage of the manure until the farmer is ready to use it and use it as a nutrient additive to the crop production. So all of these facilities, you can see they're kind of a curbed concrete pad. All of these facilities have a screen separator and a vegetated treatment area. So in the event that, the compost facilities let the manure kind of dry out a little bit, but in the event you have a rainstorm or any liquid effluent, the screen separator catches that. And then the liquids go off into a vegetated treatment area, which helps disperse it a little more evenly into that vegetation. And the grass then takes up those nutrients, preventing any sort of water quality issue. So we've also done some silage leachate collection systems. You can see in the before picture here, the silage is typically held in bunkers to store the feed, but there is liquid that comes off from that feed. And as you can see in the before picture, it just kind of sits there and collects. So the leachate system collects it again, similar to the screen separator I just showed you on the previous picture. Any liquids that come off from that then go into a vegetated treatment area as well. These are all projects that we've done in Seneca County in the last couple of years. Most of them are in the Cayuga Lake watershed. Some of them do fall within the entire county. But manure storage facility, this is one we installed a few years ago. As you can see, that prior to us coming in with funding, you can see they were just stockpiling. This is actually a CAFO operation, and they were just stockpiling the manure out in the field. But because this is a CAFO operation, their certified nutrient management planner, they're required to have a certified nutrient management plan, and their planner required them to have a manure storage facility. So the Soil and Water District worked with the farm and the planner to get funding and install the storage facility. And these are generally, like I said, for larger farms. Seneca County Soil and Water doesn't do a lot of these just because we don't have a lot of larger CAFO farms. So we haven't really been involved. There are some manure storage facilities in the county that we haven't had involvement with, just the farmers have done them on their own. So barnyards and heavy use areas, as you can see, when farmers are feeding and watering animals in those areas that are high traffic, they're seeing a lot of the ground just kind of gets beaten down and a lot of impact on the land. So we will come in and install these concrete pads. So when the farmer is feeding and watering their animals, it's an area for them to kind of collect and scrape off the manure, but also not create water quality issues. Again, they all have the screen separators keeping the solids back for the farmer to, again, field apply for nutrient additives, and then go through a screen separator into the vegetated treatment area. We also offer a lot of grazing systems in the county. The grazing plans are based off from the acreage that the farm owns, the type and the number of animals. And then once this plan is developed, there's paddocks that are designed with permanent and temporary fencing, and then component units of the grazing plan, like watering systems that you see here on the right. And the producers in general will move the animals around these paddocks to help one, improve the nutrition of the animal, but also lessen the impact to the land. And so they'll generally move them around every couple of days to the different paddocks. One of the most important things from a soil and water quality perspective, one of our goals is fencing the animals out of the water courses. So the picture here in the center you'll see is a stabilized crossing. So there's a stream crossing there, but we're fencing those animals out of the stream. We also do a lot of erosion control systems like grass waterways, which are vegetated channels that convey water to a stable outlet. So the photo on the left, the before photo, the farmer was just kind of, it's an ephemeral stream, so it's not always running water. And so they're trying to optimize their production, and they were farming through that wet area. So to try and avoid that, we convinced them to go in and install a grass waterway. So the picture on the bottom left, you can see that the farmer has left that water course vegetated, and the water will stay clean and will go on to a stable outlet. And then they're farming in the upland areas. The photo on the right also shows a grass waterway, but it's paired with a diversion, which I'll show you pictures of here in a minute. The diversion catches the water and then dumps it into this grass waterway, again, preventing erosion and outletting clean water into a stable outlet. Another erosion control system that we implement quite frequently is a diversion. Diversions are earthen channels that are installed across the slope. And they generally have like a supporting ridge on the downslope side to help water from topping over. And what they do is they break up slope length. So when you have a very long slope length, water tends to start speeding up, resulting in all of the before pictures you see here with some pretty severe erosion. So the picture on the right is the one that I was just mentioning. So the diversion we're looking at here then dumps into the grass waterway I showed you before. Prior to that, the water was running down this slope, and the field to the left on the right-hand pitch, the field to the right on the right-hand picture was resulting in the erosion you see here below on the right. So you can see without these diversions, the water is just running down these slope lengths across these agricultural fields and picking up sediment and associated nutrients. But by installing these diversions, it's catching that water before it has time to grab those soils and those nutrients and outletting it into a safe outlet so that it's keeping those nutrients out of the lakes. Another one is a water and sediment control basin, or what we call a WASCOB. So if somebody says WASCOB, you'll know what they're talking about now. It's water and sediment control basins are earthen basins constructed across the slope, very similar to kind of like a diversion, but they trap sediment and they detain water and then outlet it through an underground outlet. So the picture on the left, the upper one, you can see the lake in the background. There's a long diversion and then this water sediment control basin. Prior, you can see the before picture with the erosion occurring, and then the after picture with the long basin this orange riser. So the basin will catch those sediments and then release the water at a slower rate through this riser, and then outlet it through an underground outlet. The one on the right is also a WSCOB, or water sediment control basin. You can see the picture before. The water was entering from the left on the after picture here and running down that slope and then creating all of this peanut buttery looking sediment that then runs into Cayuga Lake. So again, you can see the riser here that catches those clean water, catches the clean water and outlets it down below. So this is a detention basin that we recently installed this past winter, actually last fall. Detention basins collect surface water and store it, and then kind of provide a flow control for stormwater runoff. So you can see in the after picture here, you can see the Cayuga Lake down below, and you can see one of the houses here. We were contacted by some of the down slope property owners who were receiving a lot of flood waters. And you can, as pictured on the before pictures here, this is kind of just a routine occurrence. So to help with that, Soil and Water worked with the vineyard and winery owner, who was gracious enough to donate an acre or two of their property. And they also contributed towards the grant cost share to have this implemented. It didn't benefit them at all, but to be a good neighbor, they helped implement and install this detention basin. So it's normally, the detention basin is normally dry. You can see, I don't know if you can see at the bottom right-hand side of the after picture, there's some rock there. There's a pipe that handles low flow conditions. Then about 4 feet up, there's another pipe. So there's some storage. If that lower pipe can't handle it, the water will build up, go into that secondary pipe. Then there's a third like surface inlet that will take even more water, and then a fourth emergency spillway that runs down through like a grass waterway and outlets into the road ditch. There are some maintenance issues with these too. So the farmer, the owner of the land, will need to go in there periodically and clean out the sediment that's captured there. We also provide soil health and crop management through cover crops. Seneca County currently has 3 cover crop grants with plans to install 12,000 acres of cover crops. Just a few photos here. The picture on the left are pictures of tillage radish, which help with aeration and compaction. Which again, our tight soils have problems with compaction. So the tillage radishes are great for that. We did a herbaceous buffer with a vineyard with 12 acres of seeding to permanent vegetation. So before, the vineyard was not planting in their middle rows between their vineyard rows, and then the headlands were all bare soils as well. So we came in and seeded that, and now hopefully that will prevent any sort of erosion. We work frequently with vineyard owners as well, and we do projects like mulching that helps with soil moisture retention, helps prevent erosion, and then we've done some cover cropping as well. Secondary fuel containment. So if there's a leak, there's a secondary wall there that captures that fuel. We do a concrete pad then as a third kind of mechanism to detect any sort of leak issues. And then we've also worked with Cornell and Dr. Andrew Landers to provide sprayer modifications to vineyards And those sprayer modifications help prevent drift and better efficiencies when they need to spray. We've installed weather stations for some vineyards, and the weather stations allow the farmer to access information throughout the whole Finger Lakes area to know what kind of weather systems are coming, assess the conditions that they have there on their site, and provide better timing and planning for their spraying to help prevent drift and save spray chemicals, so they're not unnecessarily spraying. And then we also have built some agrochemical handling facilities, which are structures that allow for storage and then allow for mixing facilities. So this is where they come in and they put the water and the chemicals into the sprayer. And in the event that something goes sideways and they have a leak, that will be captured here in the agrochemical facility, and then can be pumped back into the sprayer and applied as they would have normally. So just getting into the non-ag related projects that we work with. So we work with municipalities and private landowners. And we receive funding through New York State DEC through the Water Quality Incentive Program to do best management practices for water quality related projects, again, for municipalities and private landowners. And I've also mentioned the FLOPA program before. So we also will use some of our FLOPA funding to assist with those non-ag related best management practices. So we have a hydroseeder. We work with town and county highway departments to hydroseed the road ditches, water and sewer lines, and other construction projects that might have bare soils. And that helps keep the soil in place in the road ditches, so that once you have them vegetated, you don't have erosion and soils entering the lakes. We also work with the highway departments to do some road bank stabilization. The highway departments typically will, actually the grants will pay for the materials, and the highway departments will donate their in-kind services for their labor and their equipment and fuel towards the grant, towards the implementation portion. So the rock riprap, all this rock that you see here, helps slow the water down and trap the soil and keep it in place. So it's just another stabilization method that we use on road ditches. We also assist municipalities with culvert design and implementation. So on the upper left-hand side is a culvert that failed. The middle picture is during the excavation, and the picture on the right is after implementation. So there's no erosion and everything's outletting into a stable outlet. There's just a couple other pictures there of failing culverts or bridges that we have assisted town and highway departments with through funding that we've secured. So we've done a few stream bank stabilization projects. This one was funded through the WQIP program. I was contacted by the landowner on Cuga Lake who was concerned that their cottage was going to be undermined. As you can see, there's some pretty severe erosion there. And this is just an ephemeral stream that doesn't always see water year round. But because of the steep slopes and the really just kind of sensitive soils that we have there, it just created a massive head cut up through that forested area. And so we came in, like I said, with that funding and installed this rock riprap to help stop the stream kind of from unraveling and creating that erosion all the way up. If we hadn't gone in there and installed that rock riprap, it would have just cut that stream even deeper and deeper. And again, outletting the soils and nutrients into the lake. Here's another stream bank stabilization project that we did. Actually, one of our technicians was out at this vineyard and noticed this erosion in the after picture here in the center. We're standing on like a laneway. And when he was out there doing a survey for another project, he noticed the severe erosion that was happening. So we came in again and installed rock riprap that would help keep the soils in place and stop that erosion. This is actually a project that we just finished. It was a partnership with the Finger Lakes Land Trust and the Fish and Wildlife Service. It's at the Van Riper Conservation Area and Whitlock Nature Preserve, right on Cayuga Lake, between 89 and Cayuga Lake in the town of Romulus. This is actually, like I mentioned, this is owned by the Finger Lakes Land Trust, and I walk there frequently. And a few years ago, when I was there for a hike, I noticed the erosion problem that was occurring. So I contacted the Land Trust, and they were equally as concerned. So the Soil and Water District obtained a grant from the New York State DEC WQIP program to do a stream restoration project. The Land Trust had a relationship with the Fish and Wildlife Service, and so they pulled in the expertise of Jan Dodici from the U.S. Fish and Wild Service to help design a natural channel to restore the stream. So the red area is the section that we were able to restore with the grant funds that we secured. Here are a few of the before pictures. So you can see here the top of the watershed is to the right. So Route 89 is above the first picture on the left hand. I'm sorry, the top of the watershed is to the left. Helps if I know my left from my right. So the left-hand picture is Route 89. And then you can see the series of pictures. If you follow the arrows and follow that's the flow of the water. You can see some of the pictures here in the center. There's a really dark black hole. We called that the bear cave because it had eroded so badly underneath some tree roots. It went back in it was probably like 5 feet deep and went back in about five feet as well. But if you stood in any of these channels, it was probably 5 or 6 feet deep. So there's definitely some severe erosion and head cutting that was happening there. And Cayuga Lake is down on the right. So these are the during photos. During construction, it kind of looks like a bomb went off, but the basic construction concept is to raise the stream bed, the stream grade. So to kind of fill those voids, that massively deep channel, they had to widen the stream a little bit and then fill the channel with kind of that side slope material to bring the grade of that stream up. And then they installed these alternating log structures. So each one of these structures has 2 or 3 logs in it. And they're kind of stacked on top of each other. They're kind of alternating so that the stream kind of bounces back and forth over these log structures. And that action of the water moving back and forth helps kind of dissipate the energy of the water and makes it less erosive. So you can really see these log structures in the center picture that helps kind of dissipate that energy. And like I said, the water runs over the top. And then these structures, these logs are anchored in with really large rocks that hold the logs in place here. So after construction was over, the Land Trust and Soil and Water came in with this jute mesh and planted a few trees just to help things get revegetated. And this is what it looks like now. I was actually just down there the other day. So you can see now there's actually some wildflowers coming up. It still looks a little bit rough around the edges, but it is actually returning more to a natural state. The picture on the upper left, again, is 89, is up above that. And then you can kind of just follow these pictures. Next picture, upper right, flows down towards Cayuga Lake. And this one, the bottom left, is looking back up the slope. And the bottom right is looking back up the slope where the restoration ends. So again, these massive log structures here. And then the land trust put up this sign just saying that there was a partnership between the land trust, soil and water, and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to repair severe erosion on the small stream that flows through the Van Riper conservation area. And they used innovative natural channel design to help stabilize the stream. But most of our projects, this is actually in my last slide, most of our projects are on private property and the public will never actually see most of them. And so this is actually, if you have not been to this Finger Lakes Land Trust property, they have a few hiking trails. I would really recommend it. And it would give you an opportunity to go and see one of our projects. We've not actually ever done anything like these log structures before. So I'm hoping now that this seems to have worked, I'd really like to implement these in other stream areas where we have some problems. So again, if you have the opportunity, I encourage you to go take a short hike at this Van Riper Nature Preserve. Like I said, the wildflowers are blooming, and the last time I was there were bald eagles near the lake. So that concludes my presentation. If anybody has any questions, you go ahead and ask them now. I can try and open up the chat. And I'm always available. So my contact information is here. You're welcome to call or email anytime.
Thanks, Erin. That was tremendous. Wow, those pictures are just remarkable. The before and afters.
Yeah, we're still working on our photography skills, but we're getting there.
You're doing just fine. Folks, yes, as Erin said, please put any final questions into the chat. Feel free to do that. Erin, I'm just going to read a couple of comments from Charlie here, if that's cool, and you can probably read along. But he starts saying, Erin, great work by you and your team. It sounds like, actually, I'm going to go back on this one. The DEC recently completed the HABS action plan for Cayuga Lake, and the study concluded that 80% of the phosphorus load that drives HABS come from agriculture in its watershed. It is recommended reducing the phosphorus load into Cayuga Lake by 30% through a series of actions. The first priority was related to ag, and asked if you could please comment on the action plan and any opportunity to leverage this information and the plan.
Yeah, so when they were developing the plan, soil and water districts around the lake were involved in adding data and information to the plan. And now that it's developed, all of the soil and water districts use this routinely. So anytime that we are applying for funding, we will reference that. And it has really helped us obtain funding for these ag projects. So just because it has identified the information, like you said, we reference that every time we submit an application.
Thanks, Erin. Comment goes on to say, Erin, great work by you and your team. It sounds like significant progress has been made in the last few years. And then asks, is there still a significant amount of opportunity to implement the ag programs? And if so, is there any way to accelerate implementation through additional funding, state support, et cetera?
Yeah, I mean, there's always work to be done. We are overwhelmed every year. Like I said, there's only 4 of us on staff. Funding, I don't really see as being the option. There are funding sources out there right now. I think not only for us, but I think for a lot of the districts, it's the staff. So we really need more staff people to be able to apply. There's apply for these grants. There's a lot of effort. So that goes into those applications. We probably spend at least one staff person. We spend an entire month just applying for one project through these funding sources. So, and then you can put all that effort into an application and not get funded. So it's just very time consuming. Really, our issue is the staff people. So we need to work on, there's a lot of funding out there for implementation, not as much for staff support.
Thanks. A couple more questions have come in. Last one, one of them here is lastly, many of the creeks entering Cayuga Lake discharge significant amounts of sediment-filled water during even moderate rain events. And can a specific stream or streams be targeted to reduce sediment discharge?
Yeah, there are a few streams in Seneca County that we know are kind of problem areas. And so we have certainly tried to focus the projects that we're applying for and implementing in those watersheds. There's a couple that I'm thinking of that, you know, we're implementing ag practices and best management practice in there, but we actually have not ever, we've not been contacted by any landowners, I guess, to do any sort of stream restoration work or anything. So that's something I would really look forward to is potentially trying, because I don't know what shape those stream beds are actually in. So maybe attempting to work with some private landowners to do some stream restoration work there.
Mm-hmm. And there was a specific mention of Williams Creek.
Yes, Williamson and Burroughs Creek are two of the ones that I know are kind of ones that I hear about all the time. And anytime it rains, there's, you know, a huge sediment plume. So certainly something that we want to be looking at.
Erin. Okay, there's a comment and a question.
Oh, I'm sorry, Jen. I saw what you were referring to about Williamson Creek. Yes, so the project that we did on Van Riper, you know, not having ever done one of those projects before, I'd like to kind of see how that plays out a little bit, but yes, that might be applicable to Williamson Creek. It's a lot different type of stream though. The stream at Van Riper was an ephemeral stream and didn't see water all the time, where Williamson Creek is more of a intermittent, and I think probably would need a little bit different approach.
Great, thank you. The last comment that's in the chat right now, and folks, if you have anything final, please go ahead and add that now. But Erin, great program. I'm curious how your district selects projects for funding, and are there criteria, or does your team use BMP judgments?
So we generally, our board makes the final decisions on projects that we are going to pursue funding for. But as a staff, we use the Ag Environmental Management Program to help identify those needs. And in general, we're not turning anybody down. So even if we can't obtain funding for people, we're still working with those producers to get those projects implemented, and we'll find another funding source. But again, we use the AIM program to identify problems that we're seeing on those farms. And then we prioritize those kind of in-house and with our board to get those implemented.
Great. I actually had a quick question, Erin, as I'm looking at some of the photos. I know there's lots of discussion, especially through the Lake Friendly Living program, about native plantings and using native plants in terms of handling some erosion issues and whatnot. Is there opportunity? It looked like a lot of the larger projects maybe were using more hardscape materials to address some of those issues. Are there opportunities for native plants to be mixed in or used in conjunction or used instead of hardscapes? Is it just a matter of, you know, is it just curious, the usage?
Yeah, there are. It's just a little foreign to us. Like I said, we've never kind of used those like softer materials like the log structures or natural structures on Van Riper. We were always kind of accustomed to using that rock riprap, which is it does the job, but it's not very pretty, and it's just a little bit harder. So I would really like to, like I said, see how that plays out and try and implement more of those natural materials in other projects. But it is a lot more complex than just throwing the rock riprap in the stream. There's a whole geomorphology school that you can go to, people that have doctorates on it. And it's not something that you can just take a 1 day or a week course and start designing those things. So we were lucky enough to work with the Fish and Wildlife Service, and Jan there is very versed in that. So I'm hoping that we'll be able to work with him and utilize his expertise if we have any other projects that might require that kind of implementation.
That's fantastic. Great. And for the sake of time, this is going to be our last question. Thank you everyone for joining. This is the question. It seems that stream restoration is complex and financially burdensome. And would you recommend any actions for landowners who identify a stream needing repair in the very early stages of degradation to control erosion? That's a great question. Very practical.
I think it's a little bit of a fine balance. So one of the things I guess I would recommend for homeowners that own a stream, one, don't dump your lawn wastes or your branches or those kind of things down into the stream bed, just because those also, one, can add nutrients to the lake, but two, can create flooding issues and debris that catch on culverts and things like that and create flooding issues. But they also can change the dynamic of the stream. So it's a little bit of a fine line. Don't throw that stuff in there. Some of the stuff that falls in naturally, though, is good because it creates those meanders. And I know people don't like those meanders because they think the stream is moving and it's coming towards their home or their foundation. But that helps kind of slow down that energy and dissipate the erosion that's occurring. Because if you just have a straight channel, that increases the speed and the velocity and then increases the erosion associated with that. So, I think if you have debris that's in the stream, try and keep it clear, but do not create a straight shot, just a chute to the lake that will increase erosion.
All right. Okay, Erin Peruzzini of the Seneca County Soil and Water Conservation District, thank you so much for sharing your time with us today. My name is Jen Tofano. I'm with the Cuba Lake Watershed Network. Thanks everyone for attending, and keep an eye on those streams. Have a great summer, and thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks, everybody.